So let's try and move away from this internal server error that we're getting right here and actually have some real response for our customers using, or the users of the REST API. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out by working with the put request, but we're going to try and do it for all the different requests here, so we actually have some valid information each time we make a request. I'm just stopping this right now, and instead right now we're returning nothing. It just gives an OK out of the box, or in this case an exception will actually throw an internal server error. But instead we want to be able to, by using something called an action result, we want to be able to know and control what we're actually returning in more details. So what we're going to try and do here is, if an error is thrown, it'll always automatically just throw back an internal server error, so we don't have to worry about that part. What we want to do is actually want to return a bad request. So here we'll do return, and then they have pre-built things like bad request, OK. So some of the default responses that we would use, they actually pre-built them for us. So this is actually going to return what we call a bad request object result. So with the status code, you'll notice here it says the status code is 400 bad request. And then actually we even put in right now a string explaining what went wrong to the customer. So we'll test this in a second, but that's kind of the first way to actually return a real error code to the customer. So what else can we do? Well, we also need, it's not enough to return here, because what if things actually went well? Well, we also need to kind of return something if things went well, right? Because the OK is not returned automatically now because I'm doing this. So what you have to do is actually very simple. You just have to return OK. That's just another thing we can return, another object type. And inside that guy, we can actually return directly, oh, get away breakpoint. We can actually here return, let me just do this right way, there we go. We can actually directly return an OK request. Again, notice the status code here, it's a 200. And then at the same time, we're actually passing in the updated object right away. Ta-ta! So now we're actually returning valid data. We're returning both OK and the object that we just changed. Sweet. Let's try and see how this actually works in reality. And again, if you want to make this into a two-liner, I'll just do something like this. Var customer equals, there we go, and then let's just put that guy in there as well. Now it's just a two-liner, so it might be easier for you to read. So I'm just passing into the response actually. I'm just passing in the actual customer that was updated. Let's try and run this and let's try and see what happens. So the system is running, and let's just do a send here, and notice right away I get in here in my code, so that works, and I check the IDs and they do not match. But instead of actually throwing a not internal server error 500, I'm actually creating a bad request here, which is just a 400 code instead. And then I'm actually explaining to the user, it's not the server that did something wrong, it's actually you, my dear friend, because the path ID does not match customer ID in the JSON object. These two don't match, right? But let's put in 4 here instead, like this, so now they match. And let's change this guy into Homer instead of Lars. And let's try and do the request. Oh, sorry, I of course need to put 1 both places because I don't have a customer with the ID of 4. So there we go. Let's actually go now and send this request with 1. And now the ID match. So let's step over and try to actually update the guy. Everything went well. Let's try to step over again and just continue and see the request we're getting back. The response is actually the actual object that was changed. So we have Homer now. And another thing you'll notice is the status code right here is actually now 200 OK.